Well, it's great to come back down here to a very special site. Just back in January, it was the centre for a major event as Peggy was being moved out. I mean, that was, I mean, you were watching that very carefully. I mean, wow, what a day, hey?
It was very fraught. There was a big team involved. It was the culmination of a lot of work. And in the end, it all depended on the crane driver taking the decision, and all credit, he took the right decision. There was just a little narrow slot of opportunity.
It was gale winds, wasn't it? Really?
Gales were forecast for later on that day. We'd had a bad night, and I thought, no, it's not going to happen. And then it did, smoothly, beautifully.
Beautifully. Not off it's gone now, it's being restored, it's drying out, is it?
The process is a long one, and this is one of the challenges we've had to face. If you remember things like the Mary Rose, which have been 20 years gradually drying out, Peggy's not quite as wet as that. But we're still talking about years of slow, careful drying out, and as it dries out, you know, the boat will shrink, the wood will shrink. So we've got to be very careful that she doesn't just fall apart. Once we've done that, we'll analyse her, look at the paint, you know, look at how she was put together again in detail. Because in this cellar, we've hardly really been able to look at her properly.
Well, so we are doing this where the boat was.
Where she was.
And now there's a hole here. But you had the choice, I suppose, once it's gone, what do you do with this place? Because everything revolved around the Peggy, didn't it?
Yes, I mean, this is an old favourite of people. It's been a museum, you know, for 50, 60 years. So it's a long time since it was refurbished. And we had a tough decision. We had to do an awful lot in order to get her out. We had to take away the garden that was outside, excavate that, and in doing so we discovered a dock. We've been doing a lot more work on the Quail papers, looking at the archive for evidence. So there's lots more stories we discovered. So we decided in the end that what we would do is keep the museum open. We've closed it for the winter, during which time we've installed a new gallery. And there are new windows, new doors, a new entranceway, which allows us to operate the Nautical Museum for the period, which will be several years, before the Peggy comes back.
I was going to say, Peggy will come back and sit here, or is it different?
She can't sit here.
Yeah.
At the moment, feels lovely and dry, but actually beneath our feet, after you've had heavy rain, the water just runs through. And once we've dried her out, we can't put her back into the same type of environment.
No, because even outside right now, we've got water. You say twice a day. You
twice a day, the dock fills. It's quite attractive,
yes.
And we've already got seaweed, and we believe crabs have found their way in.
It's sandbagged up as well. It's still getting through.
It's been a tough winter, so we need to make sure that we've taken all the usual precautions.
So what will the Peggy be doing when it comes back? You have to redesign this place, I guess.
That's part of the challenge. Over the next few years, we're trying to understand the building better. And actually, this is several buildings. It's used as a cow shed, a pigsty, stable block, and then turned by George Quail into a summer house, a cabin room, a boat house. It's undergone quite a few changes. So what we're trying to do is understand those changes and then design a space inside this complex which fits the Peggy. That's not going to be easy, it's not going to be cheap, and it's going to take several years before we get that underway.
And just for people who don't know the story, I mean, this was laid here forever. I mean, it was boarded up and it was forgotten, wasn't it?
After Quail died, so from the early years of the 19th century right the way through till the 1930s, she was literally walled up. I don't think it was totally unknown. The family knew she was there. But in the 1930s, it came to people's attention, and plans were drawn and exhibited in the Science Museum in the 1930s. Wartime intervened, and she was still safely but gently rotting away. And the building and the Peggy were given to the museum in the 1940s, and it turned into a public museum.
And just remind me, the claim to fame for this vessel is the oldest?
Well, Peggy is one of the oldest yachts in the world, and there is a National Historic Ships Register in the UK, and people will recognise the Cutty Sark, HMS Belfast, HMS Victory, and the Peggy. They are all on that same register. So this is a Grade 1 heritage boat, which has an amazing history. Most of the boats that survive from this period are military vessels, and the famous one, the Victory, for example, completely rebuilt. It was towed back into harbour as a hulk and then rebuilt. The Peggy's unique, was never rebuilt. It's got its existing woodwork. The museum refitted a keel in the 1950s, but it's substantially intact.
Great. Well, we'll follow the story through for how many years, if we're still here for it.
You have plenty of opportunities, plenty of episodes in the future.
Okay, and this is going to be interesting. You've got ideas for what you're going to do with this area?
What there'll be is just, if I dare say it, a cardboard cutout, but we'll put something the same size as the Peggy, so you get a sense of the scale. But we're telling her story upstairs, and as time passes, you'll be able to go and visit. The Heritage Open Days we do every October, and you'll certainly be able to go and see the Peggy in a new home in Cool Road in Braddon during the Heritage Open Day period.